1 in 10 obese children by 2030 will be from India. Another study also showed 54% of kids were not eating optimally.
The products are not only the issue, the way they have been marketed over a period of time and the lack of nutrition awareness has all culminated it together as an issue. There are so many synthetic form of sugars which people are putting inside and then they're labeling no added sugar rather than the milk powder. I think it would be better to have a glass of fresh milk anytime. When it comes to packaged food, you should read the hierarchy of ingredients which are mentioned in the label. That will help you to know whether that product really has a good amount of millets or is it just being mentioned for the sake of marketing.
Hey parents, welcome to another episode of the Modern Indian Parent Podcast, a podcast that is redefining parenting in Indian families. Every week we bring you episodes that will help you own your modern parenting choices, even if Nani and Dadi don't agree with them. I'm Sanchita Daswani, a pediatric nutritionist, and today we are joined with a very special guest, Nira Shah, who is the founder of Little Fingers, which is a company providing healthier and cleaner alternatives to packaged foods for our kids. They have a range of pancakes, premixes, laddus, and cookies. Today on the podcast, we will be discussing the important topic of offering packaged foods for our kids. I know a lot of parents get nervous about this, but we are really going to be understanding why is there so much hesitation? What is the issue with packaged foods today? And what should we look out for as parents when we're looking for cleaner and healthier alternatives? We will also be discussing with Nira about her journey in launching a cleaner alternative, healthier alternative in terms of packaged foods for our kids today. So let's welcome her onto the podcast. Welcome, Nira, to the Modern Indian Parent Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Sanchita, for having me over here.
Of course, we have been in touch for a while now. My kids really enjoy all your products from the Little Fingers range. And especially one of our favorites is we use the milk mix, the ragi mix, and we make the popsicles. And that is a big hit. Like my son is running into the kitchen and, always asking for it. So thank you for making such amazing products. And as I was saying in the introduction, today we are going to talk all about packaged foods and offering our kids and hopefully breaking the stigma around it. And Nira, I'd love to know a little bit more about your journey and how you got into this space.
Okay, and first and foremost, I'm glad to know that your kids like milk mix. So thank you so much for that. And in regard to my journey, basically when I had my kids, I wanted to travel. I couldn't find any ingredient or any product which was 100% clean. So when I took few of the products available in the market and when I read the ingredients, I saw they were laced with hidden form of sugars, high refined sugars. They were high on sodium. They had a lot of preservatives and they had milk solids, milk powder, maltodextrin and whatnot. So then I started experimenting on my own. I started reading a lot of stuff and I started making my own premixes from the kitchen of mine. And at that time, a lot of my friends also had kids of the same age. So then they were curious to know what I was offering my kids, what were those powders. And I used to give them as samples. I just try it out and let me know how it works for you. And from that feedback, I got the motivation to launch a category which was 100% labeled as clean ingredient product.
Okay. Okay. And now did you start with one particular product and then expand the range, or you had a few already?
No, so basically, Little Fingers is dedicated to my kids. Uh, it has grown simultaneously with them. So when they were 6 months, I started with a range called Brand Like because I wanted to make them eat something healthy, which was travel friendly and an instant with a consistency like porridge. So that was the concept behind Brand Like. And it was really a savior for me during my travel period with the kids. As they grew up, Brandlex was replaced by a healthier version of cookies because I did not want them to consume cookies with any form of sugar or maida, basically refined wheat flour. So I again experimented baking cookies without the use of any synthetic add-ons. And then again, as they grew up, the cookies category went into a category of premixes. So we launched pancake premixes. We launched our laddu mixes. And then once they had tasted Bonvita milk and a chocolate milk at my friend's place. And for that, the milk mix category was again developed for them. So the journey of Little Fingers is parallel along with the growth of my kids. Whatever I was offering to my kids came onto the website for the other kids as well.
It's so amazing because I think so many of us as moms, the jobs we do now has stemmed out of our own experience as mothers and what we felt was missing. So even for me as a nutritionist, I was just like, why is there so much information? It's so overwhelming. Why isn't there just one person that can guide me and tell me what to do and what to offer my kids? And I think the same thing for you. You saw that there was a gap and you filled it. And I want to first talk a little bit about the stigma around packaged foods, because a lot of times when we talk to parents, they are like, no, 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 we can't offer any packaged foods, we'll only stick to homemade food. So I wanted to understand from your view, why is there such a stigma around it, and what is the issue with the current products out there today?
I think that not the products are not only the issue, the way they have been marketed over a period of time and the lack of nutrition awareness has all culminated it together as an issue. Because most of the products, I must say around more than 90% of the products that you find on the Indian shelves in the market are actually packed with immense form of preservatives to have an enhanced shelf life because the companies cannot afford to have products with lesser shelf life. Again, there is so much high salt, there's so much sodium. Sugars have taken over new names. It's not just refined sugars. There are so many synthetic form of sugars which people are putting inside, and then they're labeling no added sugar because again it's a chemical and people wouldn't know that. And I think recently the awareness and the drive of Label Padhega India has made people aware of what to consume, what not to consume, but at the same time, they are not able to get products which are 100% clean. So hence the stigma has been cropped up that they want to offer something healthy, but at the same time, they are not getting the options right out in the market to give something healthier to the kids.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on with that. That as parents, the thing is we have so much going on. The last thing we need to sit and do is be like, okay, let's double check, even though it's being marketed to us as the best first food. Like we know what happened with some of these brands. They were adding extra sugar in India, that particular brand. And as a parent, it's being labeled as best first food for your baby. You are going to trust it and offer it, you know? So I think that the marketing really misleads us a lot. And I think that's why a lot of people are shifting to actually try and read it. But then the issue is we don't understand half of it. I remember that there was this gummy that I was giving my kids that they told me this company had approached me. And even me being a nutritionist, I said, wow, okay, no sugar, you know, maybe I overlooked it and I started giving it to my kids. And then a few months later, someone brought it to my attention that they're using artificial sweeteners. And because they're using artificial sweeteners, they can label it as no sugar in that way. But actually now we know that artificial sugars actually lead to a lot of issues in the gut, in the brain, and they're not safe for kids. So again, even me as a nutritionist, I was fooled. I overlooked it. Imagine all of us mothers out there who are not studying nutrition every day. We can easily get tricked by that. So I think you're right. It's that unawareness of that nutrition knowledge, but at the same time, the marketing today by all these companies.
Also had an experience of a similar kind. We were in a trial phase of launching puffs from our end, and normally all the products that we are doing at the moment is manufactured and overlooked by myself personally. So this was a range that we were keen to have it manufactured by a third party, and I wouldn't name the brand, but they're already doing it for a brand which is well established in the market for snacking range for kids. Now, when we got the ingredient list from the third party manufacturers, I told them that here I can see more than 20, 30 ingredients, whereas that brand is only writing 6 to 7 ingredients. How is that possible? So they have removed the forms of sugars, the synthetic flavors that they are using, all the preservatives that are being used for the manufacturing, they have removed and they're not mentioning on the labels. So somehow this gap is also there. And I think we need to take proper steps to make sure yeah, that every single product out there in the market is duly checked and certified also.
Yeah, so I think it's not there's so many components to it. So if I'm a mother that, has a baby and I want to offer something to them, how would are there any things you would say that they should check for in order to make sure that it's a safe and okay product to offer?
See, my motto as a mother was that I would give something, a product, basically, when I read its back labels, I should be able to know what the ingredients are. Because it has to be a very natural ingredient that you will find in a normal household kitchen. And that has been the motto of Little Fingers. We want to only use the ingredients which you find in the average kitchen and not the ones which are processed or made in a laboratory. So when you read the labels, if you find something like one or E56, those are the things which we don't know. I don't know what is an FOS. I don't know what is an oligosaccharides, but I know what is jaggery. I know what is a date jaggery. So we have to start using the products which are found in a day-to-day routine kitchen of any place in the world.
Correct. I think when you can read the labels and understand the ingredients, then you know that at least what you're giving your child is made from at least real food. Because even I teach my kids when we look at cheese, like you'll see a lot of the brands, the packaged cheese, which kids tend to love a lot. It will have E952 and INS and all these preservatives. And when you speak to the companies, they say, "Oh, it's okay, it's past the regulations, or it's totally fine." But I think also what's important for all the moms listening to know is that, look, we get it, because of course the availability of alternatives is hard sometimes, and we're so grateful for companies like Little Fingers. But I think it's more about balance and awareness, and then making small changes. So in that sense, that okay, this cheese does have all of that, so instead of offering it every day, I will do it maybe once or twice a week, or making that, because for us as parents, it's there's a lot going on as well for us. When I think back to the journey with my kids, when I started solids, I did the whole rice cereal, I gave them the puffs, and I always look back and I think, how did I make that mistake in that moment? Because now I know it's not good, but I think as parents, when you're in that moment, you're just taking whatever you have and you're just going with that. So I feel like, looking back, like my son got major gut issues from those baby puffs. And actually, when I went back and I looked at the ingredients, I noticed that the second ingredient was refined sugar. And I don't know, as a parent, sometimes you just get into it and you just maybe feel you don't have another choice and you still offer it. So I want to come to the topic of sugar. So sugar is something we've all grown up on. It's a lot of times for us, it's memories that we have eating cake at birthday parties or having a cookie with dadi. And a lot of us now today are trying to limit our sugar. So when it comes to our kids, what is your view in terms of offering them sugar? When is it okay? Is there a specific form that's okay?
So I think anything in moderation works better over a period of time. When we were small and when we were not used to having so many commercial products at that time, the problem right now is that every single product available out there has some or the other form of sugar. And during our times, home cooked food were preferred over market food. So again, the use of sugar were curbed in that manner. Also, I feel that when we stick to the forms of sugars that we know, like as I said, we know what is mishri, we know what is refined sugar, we know what is jaggery, we know what is date jaggery. Those are still better than the chemical and artificial sugars that are available in the market.
Yeah, I feel that, as a nutritionist, I want to tell all the parents that, look, sugar is a simple carb that provides energy and calories. And in the first year of life, babies are tripling their birth weight. So they need carbs, they need protein, they need fat. And the reality is that breast milk and formula have sugar. Okay, but the sugar that's in them is regulated, easily digestible, and is put in a way to give them the right amount of energy mixed with all the other nutrition. So, what we're trying to say is that sugar, in a way, is okay for your kids to have, but it's important for them to have the right form and at the right time as well. So, I would definitely say, as a nutritionist, in the first year, avoid any added sugar. So what I mean by added sugar is actually adding sugar in the foods, because that what that will do is, see, every bite counts. You see kids are taking very few bites sometimes at meals, so it's important to make sure that every bite is nutrient dense. So in the first year I would say stick to fruits, stick to date syrup, that's okay. And then post one, you can add a bit of your honey, your jaggery, your coconut sugar, because that is still less refined and it's more in the natural form. And if you balance it out with good carbs, with good protein, good fat, the blood sugar spike will be stable. So that would be okay, because I want to talk to you about this again, packaged foods. And a lot of times parents avoid it, but I think today as a modern Indian parent, we don't have time to make all the meals. We do want to offer our kids variety, like offer them things on the go that we can just give them. Like my kids love the ragi cookies, so whenever I'm on the go, sometimes especially traveling, just having that cookie there, it's okay. I think also the issue today with a lot of the packaged foods is, forget about even the sugar, it's the other stuff being added in. So for example, the maida, the chemicals, the preservatives, the artificial colors that are being, the palm oil. So all of these things together is what is the issue. So if you are only stressing about the sugar, unfortunately there's other things you need to look at.
And so the makhanas also that we get in the market, most of them are made using palm oil. Rather than giving that, I would anytime give them the makhanas which I will roast at my home.
Yeah, these small things, just knowing these small things can make such a big difference. Even, can you tell us about the milk powders that are currently out there in the market that so many of us have grown up on because we were forced to drink milk and we needed to enjoy them? What are the issues with the current milk powders today?
So again, the milk powders have the main major ingredient in the milk powder is sugar. And rather than the milk powder, I think it would be better to have a glass of fresh milk anytime because you know what you are having. This milk powder is made in factory. It's not natural. It's a substitute of a dairy alternative and it's completely synthesized product. If you read the back labels, all you'll be able to assess from it is different form of sugars, milk solids, and in a long period, all these products tend to create issues with your gut and digestion also.
Yeah, I think also with a lot of these milk powders, a lot of parents tend to do it because they say, okay, a little bit of sugar, it's okay, but at least they're drinking the milk and they're getting the calcium from that. And at least if it lets them drink their milk, then fine, we don't care. But what I would urge parents to do is choose a milk powder that, okay, a little bit of sugar, as we said, in balance is okay, but also look at the other ingredients. And if you're doing the milk powder as extra vitamins or supplements, to be honest, most kids don't need that extra vitamins going in, as long as they're generally eating okay. So really assess why you're doing it and if it's necessary. And of course look for better alternatives to the milk, because I know we have that thing in our head that our kids need to drink milk. So it's okay, but just make better choices about the milk powders that we
Yeah,
use.
because a lot of milk powders have immense artificial flavors also. Not all the flavors are natural in them.
So I know a lot of times they even write natural flavors. And I know natural flavors, in fact, is made in a lab. It's not even natural.
So in the
Yeah.
ingredients, they have to write nature identical flavoring substances. So that is not a natural product.
Like it's a bit too much. So I think for us, it's really about, if you understand the ingredients, go ahead. And if you don't, take a second look or do it in moderation. And what would you say for a lot of the clients that I work with? They say that Nani and Dadi keep eating the biscuits and they keep offering biscuits all day, biscuits and chocolates. What advice would you have for those parents who are struggling with that house situation every day?
So I think the ancient roots of India has been more inclined towards laddus. And when laddus are power packed with protein, calcium, of course, carbs, and the goodness of dry fruits, they tend to keep the child more fuller than a cookie would. And they also tend to curb those sweet cravings of the child. So making healthier alternatives between cookies, laddus, and choosing the ingredients which will keep them fuller for a longer time will be better in the longer run. Also, rather than the dadi and the nani, I think the child should be made nutritionally aware because, after all, once the child is aware of what he or she has to eat and what he or she has to avoid, then irrespective of anyone giving a product to them, they would still make the right choice for themselves.
I love that because end of the day, there's only so much we can kind of guard our kids and protect them because end of the day they will be on their own in situations where they have to make choices about food. We've all had to do that. And if we can teach our kids from a young age, so for example, I teach my kids if they want to have sugar, so I tell them these hacks. If you want to have sugar, always do it on a full stomach, so post dinner, or have some protein before, have a slice of cheese, have a few nuts,
True.
because then what that does is it curbs the blood sugar spike, which for our kids means tantrums and hyperactivity and not wanting to sleep. And after that, I tell them do some exercise, do some jumping jacks, run around a bit, which luckily our kids do anyways. So that will help the sugar to get used up. So I think teaching our kids hacks, and also I tell my clients that look, choose your battles, because as long as you are offering your child like 80-90%, all their meals are balanced, and if they're going down and having that one cookie, it's okay because you can't control everything, and that's their memory bonding. Yeah, but I love that you also gave this other option of choosing a healthier alternative that the elders are also okay with. So they know about laddus, they know about, you can make ice cream, homemade ice cream that I do with the milk mix as well. So finding that alternative and not taking that memory away from them, I think that's also really great advice. And what I love about laddus and all, yes, it has the nuts, it has the ghee, it's all the stuff that's satiating for kids so that they can also last longer till dinner time and actually be in a good mood. So I think that's a really good tip as well. Neera, I want to talk to you. There are so many moms who have started companies that are creating healthier alternatives to packaged foods for our kids. And what is your goal? What is your vision? What is the purpose of doing all of this in the bigger picture?
Or Sanchita, when, as I said earlier, I basically started Little Fingers with the aim of providing healthier solutions because I couldn't find for my kids at that time. But over a period of time, that vision has taken a different picture. It's not only just offering healthier alternatives, but we realized when we met a lot of pediatricians, we realized that child obesity is one of the biggest issue that the world is facing at this moment. And we, like as a mother and as a brand which is focused into clean ingredients, I want to do my best to inculcate right eating habits from the early childhood to make sure that we can do our best in curbing that problem. And we are soon going to approach the government also and be on a mission to help eradicate child obesity, at least from the rural areas, and then shift to the urban areas.
No, that's such a important goal to have because I was just reading a study that 1 in 10 obese children by 2030 will be from India. And another study also showed that 54% of kids were not eating optimally. Half of the kids are picky eaters. So when you look at these facts, we are moms. And when we started solids or when we sit down for every meal with our kid, we are not sitting there thinking, yeah, it's okay, our kid will be obese, it's fine, or we want them to have these issues. No, we all start with the right intention that we want our kids to have a good relationship with food. We want them to eat the right things. But it's for us as parents, what happened in that journey or what is happening that something is going wrong. And I think what's going wrong is that number one, we have too much conflicting information. We are being marketed products that are actually not good for them. We are also in a very pressured environment where we just want to get things done. So even if our kids, it's like, okay, just eat whatever and get done with it. And I think it's also our own relationship with food. So I want to tell all parents that I know a lot of us face that mom guilt, but just know there's so much happening around us, but there's somewhere where we're getting lost in that journey. And I think making smarter choices, at least with the packaged foods, can make a big difference because what studies are showing is that excess refined sugar consumption in the first few years is actually what is leading to obesity, is what's leading to long-term issues. So offering your child millet cookies that have, okay, end of the day, no child is going to enjoy a millet cookie without any sweetness to it. even we won't enjoy. So I think we have to be realistic that okay, you can add a bit of sugar, but as long as it's balanced, it's the right kind of sugar. It's okay, guys, to offer your kids sugar. It's okay, and don't feel guilty about it. But let's make some smarter choices, because you're right, because these statistics are really alarming, and we really appreciate what you're doing, because so many parents feel at ease when they're offering these better alternatives. So I think we still have a long way to go, but I think we are heading in the right direction. And I hope that we can turn around these statistics, because it is a bit scary. So I want to talk to you about millets, because now in the market we have a lot of ragi pancakes, jawar cookies, and for someone who grew up outside of India, I never grew up eating these millets. So for us, it was very simple: rice, potato, roti, which was, whole wheat. And I think a lot of people in India themselves also lost touch with the millets. And I kept trying to figure out how to give my kids, because I want them to have ragi. I found that the easiest way for me was to offer it in a packaged food form, in terms of like a ragi cookie or ragi popsicle or ragi pancake, because they actually enjoyed it more, and I felt better that at least it was not maida. But I want to check with you, when you use ragi and all, and you put it in forms of cookies, popsicles, in these different versions, does it still retain the nutrients? Does it still have all that goodness when you're making it into a packaged good?
We have a category called murmuras, and for that, to ensure that we get 100% organic ragi, organic jowar, and organic bajri, we have leased the entire farms. So whatever comes from that farm is 100% certified organic, because I do not want the use of pesticides also to lower down the nutrition value of those millets. And as we all know, millets were one of the biggest treasure house of power in terms of power for Indian body. But somehow it has not got that much of importance. And suddenly, with the government giving it more importance, it has come into limelight. So they are anytime a wise and better alternatives than sticking to any one particular form of grain. I think it should be a balanced palette. You should have a mix of wheat also if you do not have any gluten allergy, rice also. There has to be multi-grain blend of flours also and millets also. It's not just that you have to stick to only millets and avoid the other things. And when it comes to packaged food, there are a lot of brands again out over there who may be using marginal millet in the product. So you should read the hierarchy of the ingredients which are mentioned in the label, and that will help you to know whether that product really has a good amount of millets or is it just being mentioned for the sake of marketing.
This is a very good tip. How do you know? So, I think let's summarize for parents that when you're looking at a label, number one, make sure you can understand what each ingredient is. Number two, look at the order of the ingredients so that you know the top one is always the one that has the most in the product, and then go down so you can assess that. Number three, look for artificial sweeteners, chemicals, preservatives. All of this is very damaging, and make sure to limit those products. And then lastly would be also to just make sure that the sugar there, you understand what it is. It's in a unrefined version, and of course it's not in excess. So I think those would be a few of the main guidelines. Anything
No,
else?
I think that would be the main thing and the main agenda
Mm,
of the packaged food.
yeah. When you spoke about murmuras, it just reminded me how we're focusing so much on our kids now, but even for us and even for our parents, their eating habits also, they are used to snacking on murmuras and all of these things as well. So how important is it also for our parents to understand and the elders to understand? Because I know a lot of these things are marketed for kids, but isn't it a good idea maybe that adults should be eating this as well? It's a healthier choice for
So
us.
I'm glad you took this point. Recently, I had joined a networking group, and more than the number of parents coming up and approaching me for healthy alternatives for kids, I got more queries for the elder parents, because somehow there are not many products available in the market which are clean, easily digestible for the elders who are bedridden, and which also help to give them the right amount of protein, fibers, and calcium, because those are the three main requirements during the elder amongst the elder people. So we used to tell them to have our cookies and our laddus. because the elders are more welcoming towards laddus rather than cookies. And our laddus have picked up more amongst the elders than the kids. So, what products are there for the kids? What we market them as for kids are equally helpful for those elder people also. And at the same time, it's giving them the right amount of nutrition in terms of protein, fibers, and calcium also.
A huge problem, I think, in India and amongst a lot of us Indians who are vegetarian is protein. So I think also that is another thing that's important to look at, that whatever snacks you're having, there is some protein as well in that. And I know a lot of your products have protein. So, and I think having the millets in it and adding the nuts and the seeds, all of that really helps with the protein content. And I really appreciate that. I think for everyone out there, all the parents who are offering these foods to their kids, also offer it to your elders, because it can really help them as well. At least they won't feel deprived, because the food, it's still yummy. It's just a different version, and once they enjoy it, at least they can make that switch.
Yeah, so we use sattu because sattu is again one of the most underrated form of plant protein in India. Not only in India but in the world. So rather than having a dairy-based protein alternative, we switched to plant protein. And 1 teaspoon of sattu has around 5 grams of protein. And it is easily digestible also. It doesn't hamper much with your digestion issues. And at the same time, whatever we so I basically make my in-house seasoning for the murmuras also. I don't trust anyone for the seasonings also because against the ones which you get out in the market are fully laced with hidden forms of sugars and salts. So all our murmuras are seasoned with sattu. I make a blend of sattu to make sure that they are nutritional balance and the content of the murmuras also enhanced. So again, switching to healthier alternatives of protein in a day-to-day diet, you can have a glass of sattu on the go that will keep you full for a long time. At the same time, it takes care of your protein intake also.
I love that. And I like that, because for me, I'd be like, okay, where to start? But at least if I know that, the foods I'm getting have some of that, I feel like, okay, at least I'm getting that in my kids' diet, in my diet. So that's a really good point. It is an underrated form of protein for vegetarians. So I think that'll be a good tip for a lot of parents out there. And yeah, so I think, we've covered so much about packaged foods. I think we've broken that stigma, and you've given us hope that things are going to change and that we can make a difference. There are alternatives for us. So thank you so much for doing everything that you do and for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Sanchita, for having me. So I was able to tell people what was the real story behind that.